My Hero Academia, chapter 423 is out, and it looks like the fight is over. All for One has fallen. Our heroes have won, but it's not as perfect as you might think. Sit back, relax, and let's see how the fight ended. The chapter picks up from where the last one ended, with Deku landing a direct hit on All for One. On top of that, All for One is in shock because his body is not using super regeneration. In addition to that, All for One notes that individually the other heroes aren't threatening. However, their animosity converged to overwhelm, which dulled his senses. He also adds that when Yoichi and the other users struck him the previous time, he didn't just feel it in his soul, but also in his body. We then get a flashback to when All Might first started training Deku. All Might is saying to Deku, "Your limp noodle body isn't ready for it, your limbs would pop right off." Here he is telling Deku that his body won't be able to handle One for All with his weak body, and that's why he is training him in the first place, to prepare his body for the full power of One for All. Deku says, "Over the past 2 years, I've strengthened what I've got from All Might. One for All is the crystallization of the power of 9 people." On the next page, we see All for One's body crumbling apart. Even the other heroes note that his quirks are vanishing. They even wonder if Midoriya finished him. Essentially, All for One getting One for All is what caused his body to crumble, because Deku passed the last ember of One for All to All for One when he punched him. And previously, the past users explained to Deku that One for All can only be tolerated by a quirkless person, because now it has the quirks of 7 people, so if One for All is passed to a person with a quirk, it would destroy their body. And this is exactly what's happening to All for One. This is genius writing by Horikoshi. First, this fact has been known for a long period now. We were so engaged and focused on the fight and the war that we forgot about it completely. Second, All for One didn't take this into consideration at all. He doesn't know how One for All has evolved through the years. He just wanted to recover the original power that he gave to his brother. Third, the thing that All for One has done everything to get will be the same thing that ends him. I always thought about this. In reality, All for One doesn't really need One for All to achieve his goal. It's his ego and arrogance that are driving him to chase after One for All hastily. I mean, think about it. The better strategic choice would have been to properly complete the transfer to Shigaraki's body instead of going after Deku at the first possible chance. However, All for One is not done yet. Deku notes that he is using his quirks to forcibly stop the crumbling. On the other side, All for One thinks, "Nothing has been finished yet. No one will take anything from me. Only my dream will come true. No one. Nothing will be inherited or passed down. There's only one Demon King. That's right. I just need to keep repeating it. Just like I did with that foolish Tamura. Midoriya is now quirkless. I can use him, or anyone else. I just have to transfer them my All for One quirk and take their body." So, All for One moves towards Deku to pass All for One to take over his body. And Deku prepares to punch him as he shouts, "Stop All for One!" Aizawa helplessly shouts to Midoriya to warn him, but Shirakuma stands up and says, "Shota, Yamada, I'm sorry, I have to go. I must protect Tomura Shigaraki." Shirakuma then opens a portal between Deku and All for One to prevent them from colliding. Mick says, "Damn it all, I knew it, no matter where, you always reach out to those in need." However, Shirakuma's portal vanishes as he collapses and says his last words, "All for One, please, give back Tomura Shigaraki, his friends are waiting." And Deku is wide open with no one to save him from All for One. One thing I want to notice here is what just happened is All for One's plan working against him. If you remember, All for One programmed Kurogiri to be Shigaraki's bodyguard. Tomura was young and immature, so to protect his future vessel, he programmed Kurogiri to protect Tomura, and he also gave him the perfect quirk to get him out of trouble at any time. The funny thing is that the same quirk and work he did to protect Shigaraki is working against him now. Anyways, as All for One almost reaches Deku, and at the last moment Bakugo jumps in and saves Midoriya. Bakugo explains that instead of going to the hospital, he made Shoto create an ice ramp for him, and he then used his explosions to come and fight. And as he falls down, he shouts to Midoriya, "Watch out or else I'll surpass you, Izuku." Next, Deku addresses All For One saying, "I'll never forgive you, All For One. I don't think you're a monster beyond understanding. You're not a demon king. You're just a truly lonely man." After that, we transition to All For One speaking to the last ember of Yoichi that Deku passed when he punched All For One. As All For One sees Yoichi disappearing, he panics and starts shouting, "Don't go! Show me your face! You are mine! Show yourself to me!" But Yoichi disappears, and the last thing he says is, "Big brother, I wasn't able to guide you." This is what Midoriya noticed, so now he's offering us one final salvation. All For One panics even more and says some words that I never imagined him to say. He says, "No, I won't allow it. I love you. I truly love you. I am nothing without you." Yoichi responds, "It's time for you to pay for the crime of using so many people for your own sake. And I'm not the only one." Midoriya woke up, and we see Shigaraki with the previous One For All users strike One For All from the inside as Deku punches him from the outside. Deku's fist touches Shigaraki's, but All For One is destroyed before he transfers his quirk to Deku. After that, we get to the part that messed with me the most. Shigaraki is thinking to himself, "After Master swallowed me, I thought I was done for. You made sure that I wouldn't disappear, Grandma." Here Shigaraki is talking to Nana, the hero who passed One For All to All Might, and in my opinion we should have seen him talk to her. It would have been better if we see Nana speaks with Tenko and saves him. Anyways, next, Shigaraki speaks to Kurogiri. He says, "I got my body back from my master, but I didn't manage to destroy anything." On the next panel, and as Deku and Shigaraki's hands still in contact, Shigaraki says, "I'm a crying brat just like you said. I wasn't able to crush your hand." Deku responds by saying, "I fought because I could not forgive what you've done. I wanted to stop you because you wanted to be stopped, so your sadness wouldn't be passed on." Shigaraki then asks one final thing from Deku. He says, "Izuku Midoriya, if Spinner is still alive, tell him this: Tomura Shigaraki fought until the end to destroy." Deku responds, "And you did it," hinting that Shigaraki has destroyed the only thing he needed to destroy most, which is All For One. The chapter ends here. The fight seems to be over and the series will be on break next week. Now, everyone is having mixed feelings about this ending, and I personally had about 36 hours to think about what happened in this chapter, and here's what I think. First, I like how All For One was defeated. We already knew that One For All can't be passed to a person with a quirk or else it will destroy them. All For One. Getting destroyed by the same thing that he did everything to have is a great concept and idea that I personally like. Plus, all the heroes including Deku were on the verge of death. If All For One weren't defeated this way, then who can fight him considering the circumstances? The war started in chapter 343, so for 80 chapters we had plenty of fights, and I think it was time to end this war. However, there are some things that I wished were handled differently. As I said, the idea of All For One getting destroyed by One For All is amazing, but we didn't see anything about Tenko. It would have been better if we saw Nana save Tenko, or if we saw Midoriya speak with him, especially after Tenko figures out that All For One took his innate quirk and replaced it with decay, and that it was All For One from the start who caused every miserable thing that happened to him. I was waiting to see Tenko's reaction and how Nana and the others would save him, so in this aspect, I think that the ending was a bit rushed. I think that we'll see what happens in the next chapter,